Okay.
Marks, get
set.
set, go.
Welcome to You're On in 5, The Art of Understudying.
The only podcast to celebrate the work of actors in understudy roles.
Understudying demands tons of preparation with minimal rehearsal.
Or sometimes none at all.
But it can end in triumphant glory.
In these conversations, we'll amplify the diverse voices of actors who have understudied. We want to hear about the artist's technique, experience, and journey.
As well as whatever's on our mind that day.
Welcome to You're On in 5. I'm Scott Sava, your co-host. You might know me from working box office at the Annoyance Theater on Friday nights.
And I'm your other host, Elana Elise. And I don't have anything you might know me from because I forgot to think of it. But today, our guest is Jessica Dean Turner, and you might know her from Last Night or the Night Before at Steppenwolf Theater, and we are so delighted to have you. Welcome!
Yay! Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, gosh. I'm so excited. I think Scott's super excited, too. That's why he's all flubbery-rubbery. So we're just going to get things started with our standard first question, and that is, what was your first professional understudy gig?
My first professional understudy gig. I feel like I included a bunch of things that I did in college while I was apprenticing at a few summer stock Shakespeare festivals and things, but my first time doing this professionally was at Jackalope. I was understudying The Light Fantastic by Ike Holter, understudying the brilliant Brianna Buckley. And it was a horror play, and I had one of those big hulking Ike Holter monologues that is 7 minutes on the page, a full athletic feat that you had to get done. And it was just great, gritty Chicago storefront theater in the middle of the summer. And I was so happy to be back at it because I had left the industry for a good little bit while I went to grad school, came back to Chicago, was tiptoeing back into it. But that was my, okay, I'm going to do this for real again.
Nice. Did you ever have to go on?
I did. They needed, Brianna had a wedding or something, so I don't need to tell her business, but she was out. And I was able to go on for a weekend, and I was so petrified. One, you want to do justice to the rest of the cast who's been working so incredibly hard. And two, I've admired Ike's work for so long, and I didn't want to, mess that up by being a doof. I did have to go on for, I think, 3 shows. So I got the opportunity to slot in with those brilliant actors over there.
That's terrific. Did they have understudy rehearsals for you?
We did. Actually, one of your former guests, Alberto Mendoza, he was an understudy with me on that project. So we, got to, like so many of y'all's past guests I've worked with, like Greg Jaffois, we were understudies together. Kim Fukawa was my understudy. I love how small Chicago is. But yes, right. I felt incredibly supported. Not only because they knew that I would have to go on, but they are one of the theaters who offers an understudy run, which I think is so important. Not everyone does that. And I think that is kind of a disservice. Like, you got these people who are doing all of this incredibly hard work, and you might just end up, collecting a check in the green room, which I'm not mad at that either. Get down how you live. But it's always nice when we can showcase what we can do.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, now that we've broken the ice, according to our protocol, let's talk about some of that college stuff that you've been thinking about since we started on this route, right? So, what was that all about?
Yeah, so during the summers in undergrad, the summer between my junior and senior year and after my senior year, I did 2 summer stock Shakespeare festivals. The first one was the Great River Shakespeare Festival, and I understudied Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream and Mistress Quickly and Mistress Page in Henry IV Part 1. And then after I graduated, I I was an intern at Riverside Shakespeare Theater, where I understudied Portia and the Prince of Morocco in Merchant of Venice. So in that case, I had to woo myself. Like when you're an understudy, you like you have to like grab onto all these different parts. So it was just me talking to myself unsuccessfully, wooing myself in iambic pentameter. But that was great. It was a nice little step into what has since become a lot of my bread and butter as an actor. I do a lot of Shakespeare, and that was my first foray into seeing how people make a living at that thing. And I don't know many college programs, or college BFA or BA programs that teach people how to understudy.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, if I could change the world or, tell them to do that, it's such a useful skill, and it's such a specific skill to learn, like how to be in support of a full production, how to honor the choices and the impulses that the principal character has made while not just trying to be a direct mimic of it. I can't be Brianna Buckley. I can't be Christiana Clark, who I've, understudied, or Sydney Charles or Mackenzie Chin, like all these incredible actors. I can bring what I can, and I can honor the scaffolding that the rest of the production is made. But I do think that is something that my program could have supported us a little bit more in. But I understand, you have the people that you have. Maybe there's just not enough space for that. But anyway, those 2 summers really taught me a lot about professional practices and how to show up and do my thing, but not try to overdo my thing and make a whole new play in the event that somebody has to go out.
No, that's great. And that's one of the things that I love about what we're trying to do. Like, hopefully enough ears will hear this, because that is one of the things in academia. It's almost like they expect you to, if you're pursuing acting, they expect you to understand that part of acting, and there's very little conversation about it, and sometimes depending, colleges, theater department would do shows and repertory or whatever, or have double casting. And that's more often in high school, but sometimes colleges do that, right? But it's never, if it's double cast or there's a rotation, that's still a specific kind of art for an acting student, right? It's not specific to what understudying is. And so I really hope decision makers are hearing us repeat that, because there's no reason not to. If you're going to have a theater acting degree program, it's also the thing about the business of acting, right? Like, that's a pursuit many academic, actors have to find elsewhere. Like, many don't, so all of that, it seems like, by now, there ought to be a shift to include both those components. I don't know.
There ought be. And like, as I've been thinking about this, getting prepared to come and sit and chat with you all, I've been thinking about, my program specifically had an MFA and a BFA program. And I could see a world in which a BFA student is understudying an MFA student, or a younger, a BFA student is understudying a senior, because we have to do practicums. We have to learn how to do, the lights and the costumes and makeup and all that. So I think that would endorse the rest of your learning by saying, all right, I'm going to watch this person's blocking, show up at this rehearsal, because that is a skill to have. And I think, and this is something that I had to, make peace with myself. We're going to be vulnerable and intimate and, just get into it. But I think that there is a lot of like ego breaking down that we have to do. And I could see it being a problem, like, oh, well, I have to understudy Shannon. Okay, if we can let that conversation go, because Sean Blake, we understudied a show together. Sean Blake, great actor in the city. Me and Greg Jaffois, we love Sean Blake.
Yes.
And his whole mantra, rallying cry while we were the understudy team was was we are the covers. We are under no one. We would start calling ourselves Team Duvet because we got y'all covered. We, you know, and I love that because it takes that hierarchical thing out of it. And I think especially post-pandemic, we've understood how important, how vital a good understudy crew is. Like, these aren't second-class actors. Like, I have looked at playbills and like, oh my God, they got such and such an understudy that I want to see that understudy run. That's going to be great. And I've also had conversations with actors who are like, I don't understudy. Yeah, I don't do that. I'm like, whoa, we like, as an audience member, you know, in the event that someone, whatever is happening to them, I want to know that the show is still has the integrity and the you know, the vision, like that they are in good hands no matter who is on that stage. So I think that it's honorable work, it's noble work, and more schools need to support that in their teaching, because a lot of us, we don't just waltz out onto the stage like as the lead. You know, you gotta figure it out. And also, I was talking to yet another actor who was like, oh, but isn't this actor too old or too established to be an understudy? And I was just thinking to myself, if I'm seeing Fences and the person playing Troy Maxon is out, it shouldn't be like an 18-year-old.
Right.
Like, I don't think that there needs to be that type of division in our thinking about understudying.
Right. The most important thing that we try to drive is the fact that understudying is an acting job. Like,
absolutely.
That's what it is. And the more that people come to understand that, then the easier it'll get, you know, because one of the things, you know, we've always, when we have understudies, it is in case of emergency, right? You know, as we start to evolve into creating an actual work environment, like emphasize the fact that artists, you know, this is our job and we deserve rights and, you know, considerations like any job, where most jobs you can say, hey, I gotta go do this thing, or I have a doctor's appointment, or, you know, my family's going on vacation for 3 days or whatever, you know, having the cover to be able to do that, keeping your job, and, you know, providing an opportunity for your covers to shine and the show not get interrupted, right?
Yes.
So we, you know, for our attitudes, and like, you know, we don't want to miss shows, right? Like I have never missed a show unplanned. And that hasn't always been great. You know, sometimes I've been really sick. You know, like I've been really, really sick and had an understudy. But it was like, well, I'm still alive. Here I go. You know, so really kind of peeling back that kind of pressure and recognizing that, you know, and for Chicago, part of that challenge is, you know, like the Jeff requirements, right? With like the number of shows and how, you know, the principal cast being in X amount of shows for it to be eligible, which is like this weird thing, you know, but like that's part of it. So then that makes us, those who are Jeff eligible, more, you know, like stressed out about making sure we get those number of performances with the principal cast or whatever, which really, you know, whatever. That's just what it is right now. I don't know how to fix it. Hey, Scott, do you want to talk?
Sure. Yeah. No, I loved all of that stuff about, shut up, Lana. No, I loved, the stuff about the colleges is, so important. And I feel like it also would give so many more people opportunities in college. And you know, like I think exactly, like if you have seniors in the lead roles, then like get some freshmen to be understudies, you know, it's great experience. And then like you're also, the ego breakdown is so key. And creating that relationship between understudies, I think could be really helpful, in kind of figuring out what that is, even, you know, what that conversation is. And it's different for everybody, but like there should be a conversation, you know, at the very least. You know, sometimes under or over studies are just kind of like, you know, away from the understudies, and almost ignorant of them. But we're all on the same team, and if we can get everybody working together, more heads are better than fewer. So
Yes.
so yeah, I love that. Jessica, what was your most recent understudy job?
Most recently, I understudied Christiana Clark in The Ripple the Wave That Carried Me Home at the Goodman, and this was back in the top of 2023. Worked with an incredible understudy team over there, and it was like a pretty difficult little haul that we had, because it was a co-production between the Goodman and Berkeley Rep. And so all those actors who had done the show in Berkeley, they were just gonna pop it up at the Goodman. And so we had 10 days, because the understudies come a little after.
Mm-hmm.
And so from our first rehearsal to opening night, 10 days. It was like, all right, so they're just going to go, because it kind of functions almost like a one-woman show. It's this memory play about this woman. And I was understudying the one woman, or like the central protagonist, who just talks. And she talks and she talks. Lord have mercy, does she talk. And so it didn't have a lot of technical components. So it didn't need a ton of rehearsal. So that was a climb, but and I don't want to shortchange the other actors who were in that show, because while it had this central protagonist who was guiding us through this thing, there were some pretty meaty roles for the other 3 actors. I think it was 4 folks. So that was the most recent one I had, and I was in very good hands. Everyone understood the climb. Everyone understood okay, this is not a typical ask. So they were being very generous and gentle with us. And I think, and there's something about Chicagoans. We're like, oh yeah, we could do it. We could do it. We could have did it in 9 days. This extra day is nothing.
Right.
There's that madness that comes with being us, but it was really, such a warm and generous room, working with those artists. Also another Brianna Buckley joint. And sometimes in my time as an understudy, I will look at the person that I'm understudying and I'm like, oh, they're a tank. I'm good. They got it. They're going to do all these shows. And Christiana did, but she was gracious. She was like, you want one? Do you want one? Because I could go down. And I said, you got it, sis. I'm here if you need me. But, and I enjoy understudying at the Goodman, because they do offer that producer's run. Mm-hmm. So I would have been upset if I had learned that entire play. And Alana saw it. I took her to opening. And if, all them words that I saw, and if nobody got to see me do it, if only my husband and my downstairs neighbors heard this play, I was going to lose my mind. So I was, I'm always very happy that the Goodman offers that.
Yeah, that's super considerate.
Yeah.
What were your rehearsals like for that?
Gosh, well, we watched runs of the show. Because they were, again, fully off book. They were just fine tuning it and finding new discoveries with the new space that they were in. So for about the first 3-ish days, we were just watching runs of it. And then when they went into tech, because usually around tech time is when the understudies kind of split off, because there's no value in me watching someone hold in place for lights. So we were able to go up to the rehearsal room while the principal cast was downstairs in the theater. And we started to run the show and hear the patterns and find that flow. And this was also, I've never had this before as an understudy, but they gave us the archival video from Berkeley to watch before, because they knew it was going to be a tight turnaround for this. And so even before I got into the room, I was able to watch the show and get these words into my brain very quickly. And then after the show is open, then you have those daytime understudy rehearsals that are guided by the assistant director, Danielle Davis, who, brilliant actor, brilliant like assistant director. She's just such a dope human being. Very happy that I got to work with her after admiring her work for so long. And we were in such good hands. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What did you? It sounds like you kind of memorized it before rehearsals. What was your like strategy for tackling so much text?
Well, to take it back to my Ike Holter days, it like everything is always a learning experience. But I do this thing where, and that way madness lies, but it's the best way I know how, is I say one word at a time. So to go back to our tongue twister, so if, one hand, two ducks, I would go one hand, two, one hand, two ducks. And just like all the way through until these things, like, it's muscle memory. Like, this thing must lead to the next thing. And then you hear it so often and you speak it so often, like start to create those pathways. And with, again, this like mad understudy team, everyone's like, we got a lot to do and Jess has the most. So let's like, whatever you need to run. Do you want to run this scene? Do you want to just have, and in the green room, constant line throughs, watching the show on the little monitor and speaking it alongside them. Yeah.
It's awesome.
That is awesome. I like that tip. I've never done that, but I think that if I ever find myself with a script that for some reason I'm doing that doesn't make sense to me, and that's my biggest struggle. Like, I'm still fine even in my old age with memorization in general, but if there's no logic, like connectivity through what I'm saying, regardless of what anybody else is saying, I have a really, really hard time. And sometimes feel like at a huge loss. I have, the few times I've really had to overcome that, I mostly have, but I think that a technique like that would help me. I mean, I'm going to really try to not ever have to memorize a script that doesn't make sense to me for the rest of my life, but should I find it in my world, I like that. I think that would be really helpful. I wish I had called you the last time I did that.
I got you.
Also, so much easier when the text, like when the script is good.
Yes.
Like it makes all the difference in the world.
Ooh, yes.
When we were doing Henry, I think I did the same thing, but I did it from the end of the play forwards. And I really liked doing that because then like whatever I was working on at that, like whatever section of the play I was working on would be the hardest part. But then like once you're rolling, you're already like everything's stronger. So like I never had to think too much after a certain point about it.
That's
I love
interesting.
that.
Just, what he's talking about, Henry?
I don't think so.
So I the way I know Scott is I directed him in Here Lies Henry within Terrell Bang back in 2020. The pandemic shut us down, but it's a one-man show by Daniel McIver. It's one of my favorite scripts in the world. And Scott stumbled his way into my heart, and here I am.
Sure.
No.
But so that's what he said. That's what he's referring to, because I think this is the second time you mentioned Henry.
Oh yeah, maybe yeah.
Jessica, when did you start acting?
I started acting my sophomore year of high school. I was a theater kid. I was president of the Thespian Society, Troop 6265. Act well your part. There all the honor lies.
Okay.
Just a nerd. And I remember I did this scene study from Arcadia by Tom Stoppard. And my theater teacher was like, you just keep doing this thing. And up to that point, I was like, I'm a poet, man. I don't know why I was a beatnik, but
right?
Yeah, man, I'm a poet. And I was doing performance poetry but I tiptoed into the theater elective, and I did, well, actually the Arcadia scene study was at the end of my freshman year. Then sophomore year, I was in Man of La Mancha. And then it just festered from there. It got out of control, and here I am now.
So, in any of the times that you've had to go on, have you had any experiences where it was the least amount of notice you could ever imagine? Like, hey, you thought you were just going to be there, and then somebody said, hey, you got to go on in 5. The name of
I
it,
knew this was coming because it's implicit in the name.
Ta-da!
But I've been fortunate to have notice, and I think that is the theater gods' gift to me, because the way my blood pressure is set up, like I would do it and it would be great, because that's just who I am. She said humbly, but I like notice always helps. So I've been really fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, your whole life is arts, but you don't do a lot of screen work. Is that right?
Well, funnily enough, last night I just I had a screening for a short that I did. But I like, a lot of my bread and butter has been on stage, but I've done TV, I've done commercial, I've done a few shorts at this point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What other jobs have you had, or do you have? Like, especially, I mean, like, I'm trying to ask these questions like I don't know some answers, which is hard. But but like, as acting, we wait tables, we do odd jobs, gig economy jobs or whatever. So like, you're like trying to sustain a life as an actor. What kind of little hustles have you had?
Yeah, I'm fortunate in the fact that a lot of my hustles do directly relate back to acting. Like, I teach on camera acting at the acting studio. I have taught a lot of high school theater. I taught Cherubs at Northwestern. I taught a summer program at DePaul. I taught at the Chicago High School for the Arts for a good bit. And then when I was living in New York, I would teach devising and writing workshops there as well. I've never waited a table. I don't think I have the disposition for it. And I'm like so impressed by my friends who have that. Other little gig things, I've been a reader for, like, goodness, I've been a reader for the Goodman, and sometimes like Cargie and Ross, they'll need, when they do table reads for things, they would hit me up. So that's a nice way to make a quick buck. At Claire Simon, I've been a reader over there for a little bit, but mainly I do a lot of teaching. I love it. And when I'm able to be in a show or be in process, I always take it like a fact-finding mission. Like, what can I bring back for the students? And like, I keep finding this like balance in my life where I'm like, okay, I'm teaching too much. Do I know the thing that I'm teaching? Like, am I actually out in the world doing the thing that I'm teaching? And then when I'm acting, I'm like, okay, but I gotta tell somebody about this. I have to, it doesn't count if I'm not paying this experience forward. So I'm always trying to find that balance between the two.
That's excellent.
How did you like find your way into those kinds of jobs? Like, I think I saw on your resume that you got an MFA from NYU. Is that right?
Yeah, I have an MA in educational theater in colleges and communities.
Is that like what kind of put you into those positions?
All right. So my journey to NYU, it was 2015. It was kind of like the near birth of the Black Lives Matter movement, like post Trayvon Martin, post Sandra Bland. And I was having this sort of existential moment with my acting. Because I was like, well, I want to, and I'd gotten a few jobs as an after school theater teacher, because I feel like sometimes they just want a warm body. And I was really enjoying the work, but also knowing that, like, if I'm going to do this well, then I need to figure out how to do it and to serve these Black and brown communities that I was working within. better. So I was like, I need to get some formal training in this, and I need to speak to this part of myself that is like this activist, this yearning to do more than what I have been. So I hopped on a plane and moved to New York and went to grad school and did a bunch of research in how theater can build community and build bridges, and how it, when folks who are incarcerated have access to theater programming, that it lowers recidivism. It, teaches about empathy and collaboration and compassion and all these things that we allegedly say that we want the criminal justice, in super duper quotes, system to do, but we provide no resources for folks who are on the inside. So that is what led me into that path more formally. And then I got that training and was able to gain an appreciation for the art form by being away from it. And I think that, that's something that I tell students and young people and whoever will listen to me, that sometimes you got to like take a step back to figure out, to gain an appreciation for this thing that we say that we want to do in all the ways that we say we want to do it. Because when you're inside, it can become, and it had for me become up to that point, I put on my A-line dress and my flats and I go down to XYZ theater with my headshot and I do this same thing, and it was losing some meaning for me. So I had to go find that meaning for myself. And so, yeah, that's the long answer to, I don't remember your question, but, that's what led me into education. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really good. Did you end up teaching in prisons at all, or was that just kind of a
No,
example?
That was just one of the things that I had gleaned. But through that bit of education, or through that training, I was learning about how prevention versus intervention, so working with like at-risk youth populations, how that work, preempts the other side of that.
Yeah.
Any other stories you want to share? Any tales you want to tell?
Anything go wrong? Anything
Let's
juicy?
See.
Yeah,
some
juicy.
I mean, I've seen folks who like go on it and like before intermission they call a hold. I was, let's see. A couple summers ago when I was doing a Shakespeare festival, I was doing Much Ado, and sometimes, how I want to say this, because I don't want to get nobody in trouble. So the intern company is, they are students who are still figuring out like how to get into this thing. And I remember when I was an intern, it was like, all right, they're going to handle it. I get to be the lady in waiting, and I come on with my message or whatever. Portia, he's at the gate, type things. And this is another, drop in the bucket for like, oh yeah, understudying is the real deal, and we got to make sure that these people are well supported. The woman who was playing Antonia, because we were doing like some gender swapping in Much Ado, Antonia in Much Ado, we were walking into the theater and we hadn't even done a first preview. We hadn't even done tech. She rolled her ankle in such a way that she was just out for the rest of the summer. And so we had to like reimagine the play from this grown adult woman to now be played by this like 19-year-old who she got noticed that night. Like, hey girl, Miss Ma'am is out and it's you. And you're on. And you're on in 5 and for the next 5 weeks. And so, yeah, like it's things like that make you go, we really got to do more to support. And I know that like a lot of theaters, sometimes there's not time or resources to have understudy rehearsals or to have, sometimes even a proper understudy fitting. Because I've seen people have to go on in other people's costumes and it's like, what? Mm-hmm. So, you truly never know what could happen. And like, I think we think a lot about that in the context of COVID, but we are all mere flesh and blood. Right. We like, this is from head to toe, this is all we got. So, yeah, that was the wildest moment, because all of a sudden my aunt is no longer this 50-year-old woman. It's now, all right, let me just reconfigure my mind. Cool.
Yeah. Well, also, I think that people need to stop thinking that they don't have the resources or the budget, right? I mean, because one, it's easy to say that because we've been able to say that for so long, right? Like any theater can say that, but the reality is if you plan accordingly, you can do what's necessary. And then I continue to argue that if you can't afford to put on a little show properly, then maybe that's not the thing you should be doing, right? Because then the onus is on us to be like willing to do the thing for less, willing to do the thing unsafe, willing to do the thing with no understudy, right? Like that's how they can do shows on the cheap, because we used to.
It's that scarcity thing. You know, it all comes back to there's not enough. So you keep your head down and you do your work.
Because where you say no, someone else will say yes.
Right. There's going to be somebody else who, and to tie it all back to understudying, because I think that there's a there. I think that like that is why this ego death must occur, so that we can.
That's a title right there.
To get this, because it's you have this hierarchical thinking and like, or that this person is somehow like that they are getting the piece of the pie that I should have gotten. And, I'll be transparent with you all, because I had to do some like soul searching as I was understudying and being like, they only got it because I was at, and that should be me, and I could do, and and like, who does that serve? It did nothing but tear me down. And I think that it was like putting this like nasty distance between me and these incredible actors who I admire. And I had to like say to that voice, that little, rude, like nasty Mucinex monster in my head, like that is driven by scarcity. And that voice is not the voice. That's not what the thespian president from Troop 6265, that is not why she got into this business, to be hating on other people. I think that if you eliminate that sense of scarcity, so much more can blossom. We will start to find, okay, this is what a safe and healthy work environment can look like. This is what true collaboration can be. This is what how a union should show up for us. This is how we can have understudy rehearsals where the understudy feels safe and capable and in shoes that fit them.
Right.
That is time for a break.
Yeah.
We will be back with more Jessica Dean Turner.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. We want to continue bringing you new stories of understudy triumphs and stumbles. So if you want to support our mission, it would mean a whole lot if you joined our Patreon at patreon.com/understudypod.
And we are back with Jessica Dean Turner. And now it's time for the breakdown.
All right, Jessica, for this week, we are asking, we're doing a little different. We're not going to quite ask a theater question per se, but what is something small that brings you joy in your life?
Something small that brings me joy in my life. I mean, I have a small human who's in my life now, my daughter, Audra Dean Conti.
Oh.
Shout out to my baby. And just rereading the same board books over and over. Mm-hmm. It's such a, like, I can turn my brain off, do some, like, meditative, like, yes, the little blue truck, once again. Horn went beep, engine purred, friendliest sounds you've ever heard. Like, that's my joy right now. That is my jam. And she looks at this book like it is, a James Patterson, like, yes. Quack said the duck. Okay.
Love that. Scott, what about you? What's something small that brings you joy?
I gotta say, I don't know if my cat. It's just my cat. I love her so much. She's so funny. She is a brat, and she doesn't cover up her poop anymore. She's like 14 years old, so she's a geriatric cat. And and but you know, like it's even like when she's like meowing at like, and she meows like a lot, especially when I'm trying to feed her. And she, but it's like the most annoying sound, but it's also like my favorite sound, you know, because like she's just so cute. I wouldn't want her to shut up at all. Yeah. What about you, Lana?
I so like so much brings me joy. To be fair,
Yeah.
Gratefully, because I don't have a husband or a baby or a cat. I'm fine with all of those.
You got your clothes.
All of those, I got my clothes. But so, you know, for as long as I've lived here in this particular apartment, you know, I have been like really doing stuff like decorative stuff that I've never done really. I haven't put this much energy into a space. And so in the last year-ish, you know, I've been like doing little things to just like enhance, like little tweaks. But there's plenty about that in and of itself that brings me joy, like doing that. But what's really great is I think at this point you both have seen my Mad wall, where I have the Mad magazines framed, right? So like, and I put it there on purpose, but like it so serves that purpose. So when I come out of here, out of my bedroom, now that everyone knows I recorded in my bedroom, that's what I see. Like, so first thing in the morning is I see 24 Mad magazines, for starting from 97 up through till whenever they stopped producing new
Print magazines.
Magazine. What do you call it?
Issues?
New issue. Thank you.
Oh,
That's what I was looking for. You see how stuck I got? Like it was complete blank. Yes, new issues. So, but like, yeah. So it's just, you know, and I don't like open my door and stare at it, but like that is what I'm greeted with when I'm exiting my bedroom to begin my life each day, and it's just great. It doesn't always like make me be in a great mood necessarily, but it's still just like the slightest lift. Like that's what I get to look at as soon as I come out, and there's joy in that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess now it's time for props.
And in props, we give shouts out to anybody who has helped us in our understudy journey, or anybody who has been a fantastic understudy, or really anybody else in the theater that we want to raise up and give their flowers. So, Jessica, do you have anybody in mind for that?
Oh, so many. I feel like I've mentioned so many of them over the course of this interview, but shout out to my homie Greg Geoffroy, who's just brilliant. I'm so grateful that I got to understudy with him. Jasmine Bracey, we understudied a different Ike Holter show together. Sydney Charles, I understudied her in that Ike Holter play, and she was also the fight coordinator. So when I had to learn stage violence against myself, because I was understudying two people, like they talked to each other all the time, and then they had a fight, and I was like, well, there's one of me, but I can figure this out. So shout out to them. Shout out to my understudy from last night and the night before, Ren, who I think is just goes by Ren, which I think is so cool. Like Sinbad or Madonna. Ren. People don't have just first names anymore. Nikki Blue Emons, who is a fantastic stage manager. Danielle Davis, who was the assistant director for Ripple the Way That Carried Me Home. Breon Arzell, who was the assistant director for Lottery Day. So many people who have, like, I've felt so supported in those specific understudy runs. And that's not necessarily the case in all of them, but when it's great, it is magic. So just lots and lots of love to those people. And I know that I'm forgetting tons of people, but I love them. I love y'all if you're listening, and you should be listening to this. So if I didn't say your name, know that I mean you. And I love you dearly.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Alana, you got any props for?
I thought I did, but then I started actively listening again, and I forgot.
That's always a problem.
What about you?
I'm gonna look it up real fast. A friend of mine saw Fun Home yesterday, and there was an understudy in for Patrick Burns, who was on our show as well. And he's playing the dad in Fun Home. So his name was Josiah Hagen. I heard that he did very good. And I also am seeing now that they had to cancel 2 performances today because of sickness in the company.
Oh no!
So yeah, that's a bummer. I'm really excited to see that show. Yeah, that's my prop.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Sorry, I haven't seen anything. Not doing anything. But yes.
Oh no, I was. Did you? Yeah.
No, you.
Okay, great. Jessica, I just want to follow up because we didn't talk about it in the first part, but you mentioned it a little bit with Sydney Charles. The doing the fight choreography and understudying both roles. How did that do for you? Like, how did you keep them straight?
You know what was great about understudying Sydney Charles and Mackenzie Chen, and it was almost like archetypes that he wrote for these people. So to just have different voices and energies in my head. I know some people get down with like having 2 separate scripts when they are understudying multiple people, and that I think that would just add mud to murky water for me. But like highlighting in separate colors, giving them different voices, mannerisms, gestures, like that. The previous memorization strategy that I was talking about earlier does not work in that capacity for me. I had to like get up and walk it as Zora and get up and walk it as Cassandra, and that was it had to be like lots more physical and lots more embodied. You can't do it just head down in the book with those.
So how did you approach the physical, the fight stuff, the choreography?
With the help of the SM team, like they would just stand in, because otherwise I would just be choking myself, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So either Nikki or one of the other folks on Team SM would just like hop into place, and then while under Sydney's eagle eye, I'd be like, okay, and then I have my hand on her collarbone and my thumb is in, so no one's getting hurt, and I do this for however long. So yeah, it's all hands on deck when it's you're covering multiple people. I think I was the only person in that show who covered multiple people. My check should have reflected that. Hold on, the more I think about it,
you better send an invoice.
I'm gonna call Bob Falls. I know that he doesn't work there anymore, but it was under his purview that this happened.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, in this final segment, we would like to hear any advice you might have for your younger self or for someone starting out new in this thing. Your most helpful, significant, meaningful.
I would say that there might be the impulse, instinct feeling that you have to slough away the things that make you you so that you can be marketable, and to liberate yourself from that idea, young Jess, that there is something special and right about your voice as it is, and that you don't have to become an idea of an actor, that there's genius to your lived experience, and there's something to be honored in that thing. You don't have to become generic actor in order to be successful, happy, fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jessica. This has been an awesome episode.
Yeah, this has been great. I love y'all's music. I feel like you when the bulls, you remember when like bow, 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 like you would see like the bull running through Chicago. That's the feeling it gives me. So
That's excellent. Laura McKenzie.
Yes.
yeah.
Making the sounds.
Mhm.
I had no idea what you were gonna say. I love y'all's like that wasn't what I didn't know what you were gonna say. That's great. This
Keep you on your
was
toes.
fun. I'm so glad you were here.
It's an honor.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Jessica Dean Turner and that it gives deeper insight into the art of understudying.
To send us a question or give a suggestion of someone we should interview, email us at understudypodcast@gmail.com.
Or hit us up at UnderstudyPod on Facebook and Instagram.
We want to thank all of our Patreon subscribers, especially Marcella Huff and Stanley Sava.
If you want to support the show, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/understudypod.
Our theme song and all other music are by Laura McKenzie.
Our episodes are edited by me and produced by me and Alana.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please hit subscribe on your podcast player of choice and tell your friends.
And if you hated it, tell your enemies.
And their parents.
And their stupid parents.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Oh,
Remix that. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah, totally.